53 ways to leave your lover or team. The quarterback show gets one person picked up, and I go on the road to Lambeau for the big Week 1 matchup. We break down the Seahawks next on your Packers Fan Podcast.
Hey, Packers fans, this is your unofficial Packers Fan Podcast, and these are the podcasters you're looking for. One of these guys was once a club DJ in a country saloon, and the other guy gave up his seats on the 20-yard line so 12,000 more fans could enjoy the game live. And now it's time to Go Pack Go with your hosts, Wayne Henderson and Troy Heinritz.
Thanks for joining us here on the Packers Fan Podcast, the show by and for fans of your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers. Again, the feedback hotline, this is going to be critical now that the regular season is upon us. Call us right after the game at area code 920-3PACK-GO, which in numerical terms would be 920-372-2546, or anywhere in the world. Just go to packersfanpodcast.com/feedback. Leave your voice. We got a widget right on the website. We want to include you in the next episode of the show. And this episode is 136 of your Packers Fan Podcast. Tonight is September 6th, 2017, and links and everything will be in our show notes at packersfanpodcast.com/136.
This week, we're going to be kicking off the regular season by talking about that final 53-man roster, who's in, who's out. Plus, we'll talk about the latest Packer news, including some after 53 signings, some injury transaction updates, and then, of course, we'll mention one Eddie Lacy briefly.
Ever so briefly. Then we will get to our preview of a regular season game, and it's a big one, the Seahawks at Packers. Troy will also have his keys to the Packers beating those pesky Seahawks. We'll also have some great thoughts from you, the G-Force, and me. I'm at Wayne Henderson, the voice acting, podcasting, part owner of your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers. Go Pack Go, Troy.
Go Pack Go indeed, and super excited to be a fourth-string running back on the team. I am at Troy Heinritz, your gold ticket package holding part owner of your Green Bay Packers. The Packers Fan Podcast is available on demand and on the go, especially if you're driving to Lambeau this Sunday. That's right. Our free Packers Fan Podcast app is for iOS and Android, and you can download it right now.
Get ready. The season is upon us. And in order to get ready, posted on the weekly Monday Twitter poll, what do you expect to see in the Seahawks at Packers game besides a huge Packers victory? And of course, follow us on Twitter at PackersFanPod for the weekly Twitter poll, as well as periodic live tweeting during the game. Anyway, the results are in. The people have spoken. 37% of the people voted that just having Lambeau Field rockin' will be the greatest thing to see besides the huge Packers victory. 31% said they want to see the offense starting fast for a change.
Those are smart people.
That's where I put my vote. 19% wants our defense to be on fire, and 13% voted that they want to see how this whole Eddie Lacy thing plays out on Sunday.
Definitely going to be an interesting matchup when you think about Jahari Evans even was previously a Seahawker at one time. So you kind of have this like battle of opposing teams or former teams. So I'm really, really excited to see what it plays out as when we get up there on Sunday. But first, a few highlights from that final preseason game, and they're going to focus on the quarterbacks because we have a lot of 53-man roster stuff to talk about this week.
Yes.
So Brent Hundley, I think he had a much better game in this fourth preseason game. Definitely put up some good tape, some good film. Taysom Hill was exciting as well. So good, in fact, Wayne, that when we released Taysom earlier last week, the Saints ended up going and picking him up. So he will be backing up Mr. Breeze this year.
I mean, did we really think that he might just float around out there and then rejoin our practice squad?
I think if you had a choice between putting Callahan and Hill on the practice squad this year, you definitely would have taken Taysom over Callahan. But he was pretty decent, and that's why he got snatched up off the waiver wire, and that's why Callahan is back on the P squad.
There you go. Let him go. And that about sums it up. That preseason game seems so long ago. And there were lowlights in that game as well. I mean, way too many hits were being taken by Packers players like McCaffrey, Hundley, Geronimo Allison, and a few others. Just too many hits.
Yeah, we definitely need to get this shorter preseason. 2 games. 2 games is all we need to get ready for the regular NFL season. We got to make that happen. Speak as loud as you can, especially all of you Packers people that are owners, because you get a vote, don't you? Maybe? I think so. I get a cool piece of paper.
Yeah, exactly. And the opportunity to buy cool merchandise.
Well, let's go ahead and break down the winners and losers of the 53. Yes, first and foremost, I was scratching my head when this came out, Wayne, last Saturday, because Ahmad Brooks was nowhere to be found on the 53-man roster. And I had to go, why is this going on? Because I thought we talked about it on the last podcast that we were signing Ahmad Brooks. So what gives?
Was it all just a timing thing to try to meet or come in under the wire after the deadline? It was very mysterious. I'll grant you that.
Yeah, that's the only thing I could think of is that they really wanted to protect a player. So technically he didn't quote unquote sign with the team until I think Sunday. So that way it was after the 53 were selected. And by that point, you've already hung on to your person. So other teams have started to pick up off the waiver wire, use their picks, et cetera, et cetera. And because of that, it was able to maybe have a person fall back into your lap on the practice squad by then having to release somebody because you have to keep 53. So you got to make room, one spot for Ahmad Brooks to join the team.
Yeah, all sorts of last-minute juggling. For example, with Geronimo Allison not coming back till week 2, there's a spot, but not really a spot. But we have to get through this first week, so why not have somebody there?
So let's play Guess 'em. Guess 'em and pick 'em.
Ooh.
Who is the one person you think is going to be knocked off the team in week 2 in order to make room for Allison to come back?
I cannot answer that question. I have a feeling whoever it is going to be somebody that I'm not even familiar with because it's hard to keep track of all the rookies and second-year players that have come up. Do you have somebody in mind that you actually think is going to be that guy?
Well, going from 0 running backs last year to 4 running backs this year after the 53 cut down, it was a little bit shocking, actually, because I've never seen us keep 4 running backs before. So if I had to place my money anywhere, no offense to Devontae Mays, but I think that Devontae is that one person that's going to be moving on after Geronimo Allison comes back in week 2. Just my inkling feeling.
You heard it here first on the Packers Fan Podcast. I would not be surprised. That kind of makes sense. 4 running backs, but only 2 quarterbacks.
And 1 fullback this year. We did, Joe Carriage ended up going down with the injury, so therefore it's all rip all day long.
I'm ready for the Ripper.
Win 1 for the Ripper. Is that the new slogan this year?
Whatever it takes to win these opening games. The first few weeks are going to be the tricky part of the season, is in my opinion.
Yeah, so then we have to talk about Joe Carriage, right? He's on, these lists. There's these weird lists out there. So let's start with the reserved pup list, because I think this one's always a fun one. To refamiliarize everybody, players that are on the reserved pup list must sit out the first 6 weeks of the regular season. And at that point, the teams have a 5-week window in which to allow the player to begin practicing. From the day the player begins practicing, teams then get an additional 21-day, aka 3-week window, in which to decide whether to activate the player onto the roster and make a corresponding roster move if need be. And if either of those deadlines pass, then the player must remain on the PUP list for the remainder of the season. So that basically applies to Vince Beagle and Dimitri Goodson. So long story short, Vince Beagle, Dimitri Goodson, they are going to be able to play again after that 6-week window of the regular season. So I do not expect to see them anytime before the bye week.
And by then, we will be on quite a roll, first place in our division, and we'll be ready for their return. Yeah, the PUP list is a very mysterious thing. I appreciate you breaking that down again, because you're thinking about the difference between the PUP list and the IR when somebody's out for the whole season. It gets messy. Well,
and then there's 2 different IR lists, from what I understand.
To make it even messier? Oh,
exactly.
Great.
So if you get a football injury before the season starts, you can designate people to be on what's called the reserved injured list. Now, I always get this mixed up with traditional IR. But the way I understand the reserved injured list, it's basically people that cannot play or be activated at any time during the season, but they are allowed to be with the team. So in essence, we're basically hoarding 2 people, and that's Joe Carriage and David Talley this year, so that nobody else can snatch them up, but because of their situation, they won't be able to play in the 2017 campaign.
At all.
The question is do they get rings when we win at 52? That's the big question.
Details, Troy, details. We'll have to wait and see. You know, if you're going to be a hoarder, you might as well hoard Green Bay Packer players.
That's what I say. Now you have the injured reserve, which is where Mr. Barkley currently sits right now.
Uh-oh.
Now in 2017, there was actually a new rule passed that in some circles is known as the Gronk rule.
Oh, no.
That's because in 2012, there was a ruling that you could designate one player a season to return from injured reserve. But because Gronk went out on injured reserve after the Patriots brought back their injured reserve player last year, it immediately made Gronk ineligible for the rest of the season, including the playoffs and the Super Bowl. So the new rule in 2017 now gives clubs 2 people that could come back from injured reserve. So Barkley is starting on injured reserve, which means he can still come back this year. And if somebody else were to happen to be put on IR, we could bring them back as well, based on the new rules.
That is interesting. I had no idea that rule came about. But that's encouraging because Barkley, he was just starting to get into a groove after some pretty rough seasons with the Packers previously.
Yeah, some immaculate reception, Gronk rule.
Come back, Barkley. We're ready for you.
Oh, yeah. Now, the defense is an interesting story, Wayne, because as early as yesterday, yes, September 5th, the Packers were still trying to put the defense together, especially when it pertains to the front 7, which we said was a little bit lackluster in the preseason. Now, we mentioned Ahmad Brooks was signed after the cutdown day, and then the Barkley designation makes room for him on the roster, which is great. But then we claimed linebacker Chris Odom from the Falcons off of waivers and traded away Jerome Elliott to the Cowboys. So that frees up a spot there, and we get a conditional draft choice for Jerome Elliott. So I think that'll be interesting. And then when you put that all together, we then dropped Christian Ringo from the team in order to make room for defensive tackle Quentin Dial. So as you can see, things are happening. This is a 5-year vet who did the dirty work in San Francisco, and with this D-line, just got a huge upgrade. What say you?
I say that I'm more than happy. You know, I'm not a fan of the 49ers, but if we can get some of their veteran leadership and bring it into our defense that needs all the help it can get, I'll gladly take it. And, you know, Ted Thompson doesn't make too many moves in free agency and trading and picking up other players from other teams. But this season, it seems like he's doing a lot more than ever before.
Yeah, it seems like there's some urgency, something going on. I mean, you got Jahari Evans on the offensive line. You got clearly that's a veteran leadership skill position right there. And he's still looking good from last year. We'll just have to see if he can gel with the rest of the 4 to make that cohesive front 5 unit. And then now you pick up Ahmad Brooks, and then you pick up a player like Quentin here. And it's just going to be, it's really exciting to see what we're doing in order to make sure that this is the year that we are going to take it in that purple People Eater Stadium. That looks like a giant Jawa sandcrawler from the side.
A Minnesotan monstrosity, all purple. It'll be a nice short drive for Packers fans in Wisconsin. Head on over, make it a home away from home game. And, you know, the only thing that could really stab it in the hearts of our NFC North rivals, the Vikings, than to win a Super Bowl in their stadium would be if we played against, say, Jay Cutler and the Dolphins.
Whoa. You're drinking too much water and soup in your hurricane preparations there.
I'm just saying the NFC North Vikings would not be real excited to see Jay Cutler come back into their building under those circumstances.
I sure would love to see green and gold ticker tape falling from the rafters, especially as we're sitting there live.
Yeah, I got to save my pennies. I'm probably not going to make it to a game at Lambeau this year, but if there's a game at Minnesota and I can find a way to wrangle that, it's going to be a party.
Now, I know some people would still be having questions around our wide receivers, right? Because you remember we ended up drafting Michael Clark and D'Angelo Yancey, and they actually ended up on the practice squad because they did clear waivers. So when everybody got cut on the 2nd of September, they all go on waivers, and then once everybody clears waivers, then the Packers can pick up their 10-person practice squad, which does include Clark and Yancey and also quarterback Joe Callahan. And then if we look at the cornerbacks, we start looking at Devon House and Demarius on the outside. So it'll be interesting to see if Demarius Randall has the comeback, the what we call the Adams pickup year. So hopefully Demarius can do that now that he's healthy. Quentin Rollins taking over the slot position where we said he's been fantastic in camp all preseason. And then King and Gunter will come in out on the dime packages. And then, of course, Haha and Morgan, as usual, will be back there in the safety positions. But my guess is you see a lot of Mr. Jones and me back there in the secondary.
I'm all for that. I really feel like, barring any sort of epic injury bug striking, and I don't foresee that this season, it just looks and feels like we are poised and ready, and we're going to be making a statement, starting the first 2 weeks of the season that things are going the Packers' way in the NFC. It's an exciting time. I cannot wait for Sunday to get here. It's going to be fantastic, even if I'm going to be watching from home while you're rocking it there in Lambeau
That's
Field.
right. This is my first home opener to start the season.
Oh, nice.
I've been to many road games to start the season. A couple of years ago, we actually went to Bears-Packers to kick off the season. You can see some of those videos and pictures up on PackersFanPodcast.com/Facebook. But yeah, it'll be exciting to be actually in Lambeau for kickoff weekend. I am super stoked.
As well you should be, Troy. It's going to be amazing.
So what did we hear from the special MVPs out there? Anybody chiming in on the feedback lines of what they thought about the 53-man roster or projections for this week?
As a matter of fact, we do. But first, I want to let you know, we got a brand new review of the Packers Fan Podcast in iTunes since we last spoke. The headline is just Pack, and it's by Crazy Stallion 1 here in America, and said, awesome show. Wish it was an everyday podcast, though. And that does rhyme. I don't know if it meant to be rhymed, but every day, Troy, that'd be a lot of Packers talk.
That's a lot of Packers talk. And if I lived up there in Appleton still, then it would be definitely something we think about. But unfortunately, we are behind enemy lines. So our information is small and short bursts.
Yeah, otherwise they'll track you down and who knows what'll happen next. But Crazy Stallion 1.
I can't be booted out of the state. My wife kind of needs me here to work.
Yeah, it's a family thing. That makes sense. I'm all for that, Troy. We thank you, Crazy Stallion 1, for going to iTunes, leaving us that review. We're glad that you want even more of the podcast. And with that, and keep this phone number handy, folks. After this game, be part of the next episode. Give us a call at area code 920-3PACK-GO. 3PACK-GO. 3PACK-GO. Area code 920. Like Caleb in Wisconsin, who gave us a call this past week. He actually called right before the 53-man cut down, but a lot of his comments are still very relevant, and we've got some things to talk about.
Hey, Blaine and Troy. This is your diehard favorite podcast listener, Caleb Fisher from Alabama Falls, Wisconsin. Just wanted to let you guys know that you guys do a fantastic job every week. And what you guys think the whole season will be for the Green and Gold. I also noticed that during the game last night that Brett Hundley was throwing the ball way out of proportion, like out of bounds all the time. Wanted to get your intake about that. And I noticed that Taysom Hill was also running the ball more than Brett Hundley would. I'm thinking that if the Packers were smart enough, they would think about having Taysom Hill as their backup and have Hundley on the practice squad. Wanted to get your info about that, all right? Thank you. Green and Gold to we're dead and cold. Go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go indeed, Caleb. Thank you so much for giving us a call at 920-3PACK-GO. And great first question there. How do we think the whole season's going to go for the Green and Gold? I'm thinking, people think I'm off my rocker, but I don't see any reason why we cannot win every single game this year.
I don't know. The Falcons game still scares the bejesus out of me.
Hey, even on the NFL Network, I believe it was just yesterday afternoon, the analysis, they were talking about how the Falcons are not as good as they were last year.
All right.
Just saying.
Excited. But it is a Sunday night game, correct?
I believe so. Right now, I am so focused on the Seahawks in week 1 and just sitting and watching football all day long. It's going to be amazing. And Caleb also said that if we notice that Hundley seemed to be throwing the ball a bit high and out of bounds and out of proportion in the game, I did notice that, but at the same time, he got sacked less than in the previous preseason games. I think, that preseason game 4 is just so hard to get a read on.
Well, and I think, too, he's throwing the ball out of bounds and he's not getting sacked as much because he was using his legs more, extending the play, trying to find the open receiver, and then when it finally broke down, had nowhere to go. So I think from that perspective, the fact that he wasn't on his back a lot during this game really makes it show that his progression was actually there, which is why he's been the backup for the last couple of years. Therefore, you stick with the guy who's been doing the job. I mean, Taysom Hill was good enough, obviously, to be a backup down there in New Orleans. So when you think about it from that perspective, yeah, maybe we could have kept Taysom over Brett and put Brett on the practice squad and sent Joe packing. I don't know. I think the issue is again, you're talking about draft picks and you're talking about dollars. And when you look at where Brett Hundley is in that equation from a draft pick dollars perspective, you don't just want to throw him on your practice squad or release him or get him out on the waiver wire because you've invested so much money. You want to at least get a pick for him potentially or trade for another player.
Right. But at the same time, I also see Caleb's point. I definitely go with Hundley as the number 2. But I am totally shocked that Callahan's on the practice squad and we don't have a third quarterback suited up and ready to go. I think Taysom Hill would have filled that role perfectly. I know it's water under the bridge at this point and hope it doesn't come back to bite us when we play the Saints sometime. But I see a bright future for Taysom Hill. Maybe it was just a preseason apparition, but there was something magical going on there. Pretty dang sure.
Well, I think the 2017 IR rule kind of makes that a little bit easier to swallow because let's say Aaron Rodgers goes down, right? For some fluke reason, collarbone, what have you. Not that that'll ever happen again. But if he goes down and Brett has to come in and take the reins and drive the offense while Aaron recovers, you can promote Callahan then off of the practice squad if you make a roster move. Well, you could put Rodgers onto IR, and now that you can have 2 people come back, you could then bring back Aaron Rodgers when he's healthy. So I think that leaves a spot open so you don't have to carry 3 quarterbacks on your roster anymore.
Right, but we couldn't suit Callahan up mid-game.
Correct. Right. I mean, yeah, if you had the double whammy like we had after Rodgers went down, yeah, then you would be looking at, I guess, Ty Montgomery plays many positions, maybe he becomes a quarterback.
Anything's possible. Or since there was at least one season where Kuhn was our emergency, 4th-string backup quarterback, maybe Rip. Did you see the Ripper throwing the bomb down the sidelines? We'll see. But anyway, thanks again for giving us a call, Caleb. We appreciate hearing from you, and we want to hear from Packer fans around the world now that the regular season is here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Now, on the injury front, we already covered Don Barclay, hoping for the best. Vince Beagle, also touched on him earlier. Devon House could be back week 1. We'll see. And Brian Balaga week to week. The rest of the thing is just kind of being kept under wraps. So I don't think we've looked this strong and healthy at the beginning of the season for quite some time. So if we can ride this wave, Troy.
Oh, boy.
Be buying those plane tickets to Minnesota. Oh, yetter, hey.
Oh, yetter, hey. Oh, my gosh. Where do we start then to kick off the season, but with 2 bird teams? I mean, it's like they want to say, okay, Packers peoples, if you want to get to the Super Bowl this year, you have to prove out of the gate that you can beat a bird team. And so we start off with the Seahawks, and it starts out with the passing game most of the time, but I think you're going to look at the Seahawks, try to gear up their running game, and that, my friend, starts with Thomas Rawls, who will have Trey Madden most likely leading the charge in front of him from the fullback position. Now, Russell Wilson has slowed down a little bit in his running prowess over the years, so I expect him to stay more in a pocket passer position, mostly working out of the shotgun quite a bit, and use Rawls on the draws up the middle. This will definitely test Dean Lowry, Mike Daniels, but mostly Kenny Clark to the max, as well as inside linebackers Jake Ryan and Blake Martinez. If we can stop the run and make them go one-dimensional, I think the secondary is finally up for the task. Sadly, we won't see much of Lacey unless it's on third down, but Rawls is actually the better third down back in Seattle, so maybe Lacey will be a non-factor in this game, Wayne.
Interesting. It takes me so long to get used to some of these players in their new uniforms. It's going to be interesting seeing Lacey wearing a Seahawks uniform. And I saw the Seahawks play on opening day last year when they visited the Rams at the rechristening of the LA Coliseum. And let's just say I hope the Seahawks play the way they did that day again this year.
It's very possible because key to the game number 2 is going to be, much like our Twitter poll, score fast and score often. Seattle does have one of the better secondaries in the league, and they do rush the passer well without the need of a blitz package. So that keeps the defenders back in coverage, making less opportunities for Rodgers to find his receivers. So we need to go up by multiple scores early on. And on this contest specifically, because if we close the game in a close proximity, call it 3 to 4 to 5 points maybe, we could just drop the home opener, and that would make me really sad for the drive home.
Nobody has time for that.
I got to drive a moving truck home. I got to have full focus, and I can't be angry. I need a victory so I can be like jam into the music as I drive home a 15-footer.
Well, you're going to be a very happy camper on the way home next Sunday night. It's looking good in my forecast.
Because we're going to disrupt the Seattle game plan. Sometimes Seattle plays it a little bit safe, and sometimes they play it a little bit too aggressive. What we need to ensure is that we control the tempo and the feel of the game to get them out of their style. We need to force them into the long developing running, like sweeps, outside runs, things of that nature. And then, of course, that deep ball pass that Russell Wilson still seems to have some trouble with. So if we can get long passes out of Wilson, we know that we'll be returning those for some pick sixes, which would be fantastic because I'll be there.
I've heard that rumor.
And then lastly, fun. Fun is the root word in fundamentals. We are at home. We are picked to win the division and get back to the NFC title game. There is no reason we should put this one up as a W. However, most importantly, we cannot look ahead to the Falcons. I personally love me some bird soup, and I would love to have a second helping of it, but I can't eat the second bowl until I finish the first one. So yes, focus this week, take care of business, then we'll worry about Aaron Rodgers on Sunday night in a dome on the road, and maybe he can overcome that this year.
Oh, boy, all the dirty bird stuff. Is that grilled or deep fried?
It tastes like chicken either way.
Okay, so it doesn't matter exactly what's in there. And speaking of Aaron, you know, every year he seems to have a catchphrase to try to calm us down. We had RELAX, and then last year we had Run the Table. Aaron is awfully relaxed. Did you see the other day he was doing some plumbing work at somebody's house?
I did. I saw that. It was pretty funny.
What can't he do? He wins at Jeopardy. He does all these things. And, you know, he'll fix that leaking dishwasher. Get you back on track, Troy.
Well, I love, too, that he's been very loose and lax with the fans around town. All throughout the preseason, he was actually doing super cool contests. Like if you could find him at his favorite place that he eats at and you know his favorite Game of Thrones character, boom, 2 tickets to the game. They were yours. And then when they were on the road, he was hiding tickets in like phone booths and planters and things of that nature. So being able to follow Aaron around town. I don't know if he's going to do it during the regular season, but it's kind of fun to watch. People are just like scrambling. And then one fan actually got to the planter late, and Rodgers was actually watching the fan dig through the flowers for quite a long time. And then he kind of walks up and she says, "Where's the tickets?" And Aaron's like, "Boom, right here. You were late, but I got 2 more." So,
wow.
Totally made the fans' day. So
well,
I think it's fun. There's a lot of energy and a lot of hype. I mean, Titletown District's going to be opening up, and you got the team is poised to do probably one of the best seasons so far. You got Ted Thompson. He's like trading people, players for players, getting veterans in. I mean, it's exciting right now in Packer Nation.
It is. And to be frank, you know, we are truly blessed as Packers fans. There's probably only 2 or 3 other teams in all of the NFL that could talk this much hype and live up to it. Ones that team in the New England area, you know, the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's about it. 2 or 3 other teams. Everybody else, they're trying to force the hype, you know, in my opinion. Humble opinion.
Right. Speaking of hype, you remember the hoodie?
I love the hoodie.
The hoodie has officially retired from the NFL after 9 seasons. Third round pick in 2007, the 78th overall. That's right. Mr. James Jones caught 433 passes for 5,861 yards and 51 touchdowns over his 9 NFL season, and was a member of Packers Super Bowl 45 championship team. So it's just exciting things. 8 seasons in Green Bay. He ranks 10th in franchise history in career receptions, 12th in receiving yards, 9th in receiving touchdowns. And after re-signing with the Packers in 2015, Jones posted career highs in both receiving yards with 890 and yards per catch with 17.8 yards per catch, which the hoodie, I think, is the most funny thing about this whole story in his retirement, because literally in 2016, the NFL changed the rule to ban hoodies worn under their jerseys, which now some circles call that the James Jones hoodie rule.
How come it's always the New England team and the Packers? We get all these things named after us, whether infamous or not. I love it. That year with the Magic hoodie was fantastic. And even though James Jones is retired, the Magic hoodie, I saw it in a promo recently. It's actually making a comeback. No proof whether it's the same hoodie or not. Unlikely. But the brand new Doctor on Doctor Who, in the teaser promo at least, is wearing a Magic hoodie. Coincidence? Yeah. I don't know.
I think not. Don't blink. It'll just be gone. End zone. Touchdown. Love it. James Jones did recently accept a position with the NFL Network and plans to continue his charitable organization, Love Jones for Kids, which provides financial support to homeless shelters.
Very, very cool. I did catch him on the NFL Network the other day. He looks like he could still play, but I know he's got a lot of other things that he'd like to take care of in life.
That he does. So it's going to be interesting because I found out some really other interesting Packers-related news this week. And this one comes from a guy who's from my hometown here in the enemy empire of Chicago. Yes, one Scott Tolzien, with Andrew Luck being out and the Colts organization for week 1. Scott Tolzien is going to start this season for the Colts at quarterback.
Wow.
So,
home opener or road season opener, either way.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting time for him. So I'd say, kudos. Can't wait to see what happens. He's a Badger. We always cheer for Badgers. We cheer for William Friend High School Vikings, even though they're called the Vikings, at least down here anyway. So it's interesting to see what this will happen. So good for Scott. And hopefully that he gets some playing time and can showcase what he can do.
Yeah, because I was pretty distraught when we let Scott Tolzien go, because he was really on the rise as a Packers backup. And poor Andrew Luck, I feel bad for the guy because he's just had some injury bugs lately. And of course, we know last season we had former Packers backup Matt Hasselbeck fill in quite nicely for Andrew Luck. So he likes having Packers backups as his backups. I don't know if that's poaching or just good trades.
All we know is that the Tom Clement School of Quarterbacking is definitely prevalent across the NFL.
There you go.
Then you found out an interesting one here too, Wayne, that the Seahawks versus Packers week 1 matchup is featuring the quarterbacks with the top 2 career passer ratings in NFL history with a minimum of 1,000 pass attempts.
I know. I'm not surprised that Aaron Rodgers is number 1, but I am kind of surprised, especially like you alluded to, Russell Wilson's trouble with the long pass, that he still holds the number 2 spot for most accurate quarterback in NFL history.
I guess that's something for Tom Brady to look forward to in his 40s.
There you go. Good old Tom, him and his supermodel wife and those rings that may or may not be legitimate. Hashtag not my Super Bowl. But anyway, I digress. We're going to focus again on the Seahawks. The official Packers dope sheet is out, and they've got it down to a science. You've got to check out this entire document that they create. We have it linked at PackersFanPodcast.com/136. And the headline, the Green Bay Packers take on the Seattle Seahawks at Lambeau Field in the regular season opener, Sunday, September 10th at 3:25 p.m. Central Time. Things that jumped out at me. I love this one. For the first time since 2012, that's a long time. First time since 2012, the Packers will open the season at home, Troy.
Woo!
And including the postseason, it'll be the 6th time the Seahawks and Packers have played since 2012. They really are basically one of our rivals. And
they are part of the Norris division at the end of the day.
Unofficially, yes. And including the postseason, the Packers have won 3 of the last 4 home games against Seattle by 20-plus points. We won by 22 points, 38 points, and 28 points. I love the sound of that. Things are rolling in our favor. And Green Bay is 10-3 against the Seahawks at home during the regular and postseason, including 7 straight wins. Can I get a go, Pack, go?
Go, Pack, go. Looking forward to a 42-point win.
This is going to be fantastic. Fox Sports will broadcast the game on television. Play-by-play man Joe Buck joins analysis Troy Aikman and sideline reporter Aaron Andrews. And of course,
I'm so glad I'll be at the game now.
But you could tune in on little transistor radio and hear Milwaukee's WTMJ 620 AM, airing the game since November 1929.
Wow.
Holy smokes, that's a lot of freaking Packers games. I love it. So Wayne Larrivee, of course, Larry McCarron, they do the best job. And you've talked me into when I can get it on an app synced up on my phone, turn down the television broadcast, turn up the volume on these guys because they are pros. And McCarron and Larrivee are entering their 19th, Stephen King number, 19th season of broadcasting Packers games together.
That's amazing.
So it's no wonder that they've got it down to a science. Notable connections. Seahawks defensive end Michael Bennett is the older brother of Packers tight end Martellus Bennett. And Packers linebacker Clay Matthews and Nick Perry were coached at USC by Seattle's now coach Pete Carroll, the gum-chewing, ever-energetic guy.
Pete Carroll.
But across town, the Seahawks quality control defense coach, Tom Donatel, was a defensive graduate assistant across town at UCLA, while Packers defensive tackle Kenny Clark was a Bruin. So take that.
I think you just pulled that one out for UCLA's purposes.
Hey, you do what you can. Before Sunday's kickoff, you got a few days left. Be sure to read the full officials Packers dope sheet for the Seahawks at Packers game. Again, we'll link to it. Make it easy to find at PackersFanPodcast.com/136. Now, Troy, I know it's not the frozen tundra yet. How's the weather looking for your visit to Green Bay?
Oh, it's beautiful. No rain in the forecast. 70 degrees. Cooling off as the game settles in to that 6 o'clock hour, and a nice Packers victory. I am super excited. I'm bringing suntan lotion and shorts and flip-flops.
That is such a different thing for you between all the night games you've been to, rain games. This is going to be different.
Yeah, I'm actually going to enjoy the weather for once instead of freezing my butt off or getting drenched or overdressing because the sun came out after we were drenched. And it's like, oh my gosh, what do I do with all these layers now?
But still, we beat the crap out of the Chiefs. That's what counts.
Sure do. Sure did.
Now, last week, for most of the game,
I don't want to talk about it.
Well, it's just preseason,
so mad
because most of the game, your pick of Packers 30, Rams 3 was looking like a lock. It was going that way till the very end. I predicted Packers 21, Rams 10, just an 11-point victory. We came close to that. Packers 24, Rams 10. So at least for now, I'd like to go first this week.
Garbage touchdown.
That was a gift to the Los Angeles Rams. Preseason or not, a gift, that final touchdown.
You laughed at my pick of 3 points for the Rams, and then Twitter was like blown up like Troy's going to be right. Troy's going to be right.
I think I saw Monica and a couple other listeners tweeting about how you've just got to be on pins and needles because even though it's preseason, you are about to get the score 100% right.
Oh, well. Well, I am excited then to see what you come up with, Sir Wayne. Because I'm sure it's going to be like 100-0.
You know, if that was the score, I would probably stay awake all night just sending out memes and retweets and Instagram photos. And the over-under opened at 49.5 and is holding at 50 with the Packers a 3-point favorite. I assume as far as Vegas odds makers go, that's just because we're at home. However, I do think we are going to beat the Seahawks. It's not going to be easy because as much as I would like us to start fast and start strong, I think it's going to be close. Packers 28, Seahawks 20. So an 8-point victory, and so that would be under.
I am going over.
Whoa!
Yes, I'm going to say Packers 33, Seahawks 21, and that's because I can't have a heart attack and drive home a 15-foot moving van.
No, you got to be safe. So with that, the Packers need to score a lot of points. I do like your score better than mine, at least the Packers having 33. I think the Seahawks are only going to get 20, maybe miss an extra point. Who knows?
Yeah, I hope that it's going to be just an exciting contest. You know, the vibe is going to be amazing. It's just going to be so much fun to be at home for the first time in 5 years to open the season, and it's against the Seahawks, where we are, would you say 7 in a row at home?
I don't think it was quite that many, but I forget. We have quite the lead. You know, things were really choppy during that whole officials strike and the replacement refs and that nonsensical, was it the Fail Mary, whatever they wanted to call it?
We shall not talk about 2014. We're in a good mood now, Wayne.
We are in a good mood.
Year.
Well, that's because things have been good ever since then. Things are awesome. And speaking of awesome, how about our Patreon supporters? Like the Texas-only Green Bay Packers Fanatics Facebook group, they're supporting us at the Brett Favre level, especially after the terrible past 2 weeks of flooding from Hurricane Harvey and all of the aftermath. The Texas-only Packers Fanatics prove again that they never give up. We also want to thank Alex J. supporting us at the Curly Lambeau appreciation level. That's like a founding of a base of a great thing. Well done and very much appreciated. And since we were together at the Podcast Movement Conference, we finally were able to film a little video together, just kind of introing a thing because that's considered a best practice for Patreon. So posting the episodes there, got the video there, taking the Patreon and the Packers Fan Podcast to the next level, I guess.
That's right. That's right. You can make the Packers Fan Podcast even better by becoming one of our Packers Fan Podcast MVPs by going over to PackersFanPodcast.com/Patreon. Whatever you can give, whether that's $1, $4, $12 a month, totally up to you. You can cancel at any time. If you think the show is worth $1, throw us $1. If it's worth $12, hey, that's good enough for a beer at Lambeau. I'm sure the prices have gone up again since I was there last year. But definitely, whatever you think will help out the show. We just want to make it even better for you guys, but we need some funds to make that happen. Whether we want to do live video or maybe even some post-call-in shows after the games, it's going to be a fantastic time. Or even just doing some live stuff from the game itself. Again, PackersFanPodcast.com/Patreon. That's Patreon. PackersFanPodcast.com/support. Going to get you there as well. And you'll be able to have some fun and help us out.
Very much so. And did you say that spelled Patreon?
I sure did. Patreon. Patreon.com. Packers Fan Podcast.
Awesome. And thanks again to Alex J. and the Texas-only Green Bay Packers Fanatics. Their awesome Patreon support of our show. And as far as Facebook goes, wanted to let you know about a change we made since the last episode, because when we're at Podcast Movement, learning more best practices and way to get more of the listeners involved with each other, we've kind of changed our Facebook focus from a Packers Fan Podcast fan page, which will certainly keep active, to instead create a Packers Fan Podcast community Facebook group. I guess with a group, it's much, much easier for y'all to converse amongst yourselves. Again, can I get another Go Pack Go?
Go Pack Go.
Easy enough to find at PackersFanPodcast.com/Facebook, or you can even simply tell friends to request to join the group at PackersCommunity.com, and it'll forward you right over, PackersCommunity.com.
That sounds like a great website to visit, especially on game day, because it's coming up. Seattle Seahawks Sunday, kicking off this season of NFL football for the Green and Gold. The unofficial Packers Fan Podcast is not affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers. However, I'm going to be up there, so if anybody wants to have a conversation, just let me know. Section 122, row 45, seats 123. Come find me.
It's a great section. I can vouch for that.
Yeah, so if you are there, come over to section 122. row 45, seats 1, 2, and 3. We'll be there.
Now, is Dave the beer guy still working at Lambeau Field?
I did not see Dave the beer guy last time I was up there, and I know he moved from my section to a different section a couple years ago, so I will have to keep a lookout for him.
Because I know my first visit with you to Lambeau Field, this is no exaggeration, and I support all of the vendors that bring us food and drink during the game, whether it's adult beverages or soda or lemonade or what have you. But Dave the beer guy, that guy takes it to another level. He is definitely the best I've seen. Nobody at the Chargers' former San Diego Stadium or at the Rams Coliseum even come close. So,
you know what? And I misspoke. This is actually game 1, not game 2. So I actually don't know where the heck I'm sitting.
Oh, that's true, because this is the other package.
It's the green package. So I don't know where my tickets are. I think I'm actually on the opposing sideline this year. So you know what? Just tell me where you're sitting inside of PackersCommunity.com. Again, that's PackersCommunity.com. Let me know where you're sitting for the game. I'll come find you guys.
That sounds fair enough.
And then in Cincinnati, in 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks after this week, whatever, game 2 at home, I'll be sitting back at section 122, row 45, seats 1, 2, and 3.
It's just safe to say that you will be smiling because you are in the hallowed halls of Lambeau Field.
Yes, I will.
So good. So good. I can't wait. I do admit to being jealous, but this is so cool. If you can do a Facebook.
Well, that's right. I could do a Facebook Live from the new PackersCommunity.com page. That's right.
Yeah, at least until kickoff when everybody's on their cell phones and who knows if you can even get a signal.
The hope is that they've enhanced the Wi-Fi because this is the year we're going to Super Bowl, baby.
Oh, yeah. Wi-Fi all the way to Minnesota. Anyway, with that, I want to remind you to please listen to us on the go with the free Packers Fan Podcast app for iOS and Android. It's the easiest way to consume the Packers Fan Podcast. And follow us on Twitter at Packers Fan Pod. Follow me on Twitter. I'm at Wayne Henderson.
And me, I'm at Troy Heinrichs. Again, be sure to join the new Packers Fan Podcast community group on Facebook. Just visit PackersFanPodcast.com/Facebook or PackersCommunity.com. Both of them will get you where you need to go.
Absolutely. And remember, we want to hear your dulcet tones no matter where you are in the world. Go to PackersFanPodcast.com/feedback right after the game or early Monday morning. Let your voice be heard with your thoughts of what you liked, what you didn't like, how excited you are, how we're now on the roll and we're just going to demolish everybody the rest of the season. Let us know and keep those conversations going online, as we'll be back with another fun episode, hopefully talking about your 1-0 Green Bay Packers next week. But until then, we want to thank you for listening to this edition of your Packers Fan Podcast.
Be sure to subscribe in Apple Podcasts and leave us a review so you don't miss any of our 2017 season coverage. That's right. We are on our way. The Seahawks are up next, so let's make sure we take it to them. It's in our house. We're going to win. Get ready. Cheer them on now with a Go Pack Go.